What's going on? So 23.0 just dropped, and I wanted to make a lot of character spotlight videos because they changed a lot of the units, and I wanted to make one specifically for Pyrotechnic, but because Pyrotechnic doesn't have any talents, I was struggling with the validity of wanting to actively make this video, and then I realized that they also changed Cold Elemental, and I realized that I can compare and contrast and showcase why Cold Elemental is very specifically better than Pyrotechnic, and it's for a number of reasons. So Pyrotechnic is definitely better than what it used to be. It used to just be useless, and now it does something. And it doesn't do a lot, but it does something now. And what's funny is that it does what it's supposed to do very, very well when it does. So the way that they changed Pyrotechnic, it used to have an odd and even, it dealt more damage when it was, I believe it was when you had an even amount, I believe you did more damage, but it only dealt damage to the first unit, or to like the front units, and then it dealt less damage, but it did area damage when they were odd. I think that was the two differences. And it was just a weird kind of like push and pull, to whether or not you wanted an odd number or an even number. And now they made that choice very, very easy. And the way that it works now is, if you have, so it always attacks random units, no matter what. If it's odd or if it's even, it always attacks random units. And that is the first knock on Pyrotechnic, but it tries to make up for that. But, if you have an even number of pyrotechnics, if you have an odd number of pyrotechnics, if you have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 pyrotechnics, you deal area damage, that increases in proportion to your merge rank, and it also deals bonus damage, and that bonus damage is, it not only does area damage, but based on your merge rank, you'll see the damage increase per rank, 150 to 180, 180 plus 30, and then obviously your mana power up. So what I'm trying to say is, not only are you getting the quicker attack as you merge it up, but it's also technically gaining more power as you merge it up as well, along with more power with your damage, your mana power ups. But essentially, if you don't have an odd number, it's just bad. Whenever you have an even number, you lose all bonuses. You don't do area damage. You don't do the bonus damage. It basically just shuts off. And so I have gameplay of this, and I will go into my thoughts on it. So my setup is Mermaid, Pyrotechnic. I have a max level Pyrotechnic. This is a max level Night Statue. Most of the Night Statue is going to do a lot of damage. The Soul of a Warrior, they increased like tenfold. The fact that if you have 4 units around the Night Statue, it gives it a 1 second attack. It attacks every 1 second, and it's also dealing 25% armor destruction. I'm also running a Fairy of Rage Dryad, and then Scrapper, and then a Harley Quinn. If you'll recognize it, this is Blade Dancer setup. I'm going to skip ahead to double bosses, because that's basically the only time that it becomes even slightly interesting. You'll see my really quick setup process. I just did Blade Dancer setup. This is literally just my Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer setup, substituting Pyrotechnic. All of my positives and negatives of Pyrotechnic will come through double bosses. You'll see like what it can potentially do, and it looks amazing, but the slightest, not only the fact that it doesn't have a way to increase its damage, but you'll see the obvious damage drop off next to something like a Dark Inquisitor that is constantly gaining damage. but you'll also be able to see that when you don't have the required amounts of things. I'm also playing Covenant of Veterans, mostly because I thought it would be funny, because with Covenant of Veteran Knight Statue, you have to have, oh, here we go. With Covenant of Veteran Knight Statue, you have to have an even amount of Knight Statues on the field, and with Pyrotechnic, you have to have an odd number. And with the original double T setup of Blade Dancer, that's 7, very specifically 7 Pyrotechnics. So you have the odd number of Pyrotechnics, you have the even number of Knight Statues. But if you ever get off of those numbers, if you have an odd number, if you summon in to scrap or something, and you summon in a Knight Statue, then your Knight Statues turn off. And then if you summon in a Pyrotechnic, your Pyrotechnics turn off. I got myself into this very precarious situation. I didn't mean to, but I got into this very precarious situation of not having a level 1 scrapper, and so you'll see how difficult this becomes. When you have everything just works. And it doesn't work infinitely, obviously, because, again, you don't have increasing damage. You have no way of increasing your damage. But the problem with not attacking the first unit is you will be able to kill everything around the big unit, but if you'll see right there, I'm not able to kill the front units because it's attacking randomly. And if you can't kill the front unit, you will die. And so that's how I take a hit right there. At its max, it looks like it's really good. It attacks super fast. With the Knight Statue, it's really strong. It's not the best. And it's not the best very specifically because it can't deal with the front unit. And if it can't deal with the front unit, eventually you'll just get negative affected and then you'll die. It's also bad because, again, you have to have those numbers. Right here, I finally get the scrapper, and so that works out. But even with this amount of, like, really high level everything, with my crit, it's just gonna eventually fall off. Right here again, I think in this next one, so it was right there, I have a 4.3 million mini-boss right there. And if I can't kill that, I die. And that is the biggest drawback to random attacking units. If you can't kill the main thing, because it's attacking sometimes that, but sometimes the other stuff, if you can't kill that main first unit that is much stronger, you just die. It doesn't matter if you kill everything before it. As you can see, like, my damage is already dropping off. This is all of the concentrated damage onto one boss, and it's good. It's solid damage for a unit that is not really gaining any damage other than my 10 rage stacks, and my growth tile that I every so often use. And it looks really good. I also have double abundance. I think it's getting a single abundance trigger right now off of one of my technogenics. But yeah, right here, again, if you can't kill the front thing, you just die. And that is my main problem with Pyrotechnic. It has the ability to do, or to look like it's doing a lot of damage, but the main problem is that it attacks randomly. The other unit that they decided to change in this patch is Cold Elemental. And Cold Elemental used to attack randomly, and now it doesn't. And that simple fact makes it much better than any unit that attacks randomly. I hated it before. It's kind of okay now. And I want to talk about two separate things that makes this immediately better than a Pyrotechnic. One, like I said, you're attacking the front unit. And so you will always be able to concentrate damage on the unit that is going to kill you. The other thing is the crystal damage. At higher merge ranks, when the Cold Elemental is attacking the second paragraph, its ability gives it a chance of throwing damage-dealing ice crystals at multiple monsters under control effects. So it only activates when the enemy units are controlled. And by controlled, most people think that cold elemental only works with cold-based things like frost or like cold mage. And yes, they do, but it also works with things like bombardier. I'm assuming probably stasis. And something else that is also a control unit, Trapper. Trapper is the best control unit. Next to Frost, because Frost can do so many more things at level 15. But in terms of like the control units that they're talking about, I think that Trapper is the best because not only is it slowing them, but it's also decreasing their defense as well, and it's doing armor destruction. The setup that I used a sharpened spear setup for Knight Statue. I probably should have gone with Scrapper because then at a certain point it starts to become difficult for me to upgrade. But because there is the bonus where there's a Dark Faction bonus right now, the cold elementals have the ability to upgrade themselves. And so that's what ends up happening. And once I start realizing that very early on in this game, I start letting my dryads, upgrade my Knight Statues so that I can upgrade the Knight Statue as opposed to upgrading the, cold elemental. I had a really good setup right here as well. And I'm going to skip to double bosses to not bore you with all of this. But as soon as you are able to upgrade your cold elementals, whenever they throw out the crystals are very strong. So not only is it dealing more damage to controlled things, that is also mitigated with your trappers, but you're also able to attack the first thing. And that is those two things are automatically going to make it better than a Pyrotechnic. And you'll see how much further it goes in this game as opposed to a Pyrotechnic. I think it's somewhere around here. Yeah. So you can see all of those crystals that are being thrown. That means that all of the monsters are being controlled, and you have a percentage chance of throwing those crystals. Those crystals are what's gonna melt bosses, and it melts bosses pretty well. This was actually a really good game. He has, I want to say 2,000 something crit. I do have 4,000 crit. But he does have a max Inquisitor. That's a thing. And they buffed Inquisitor. The trainer isn't great. He has a max spear, mage robes. He's doing all the things. Those crystals right there, just melting bosses. Just right there. Yeah. Those crystals are basically feel like a talent. And so when this thing actively gets talents, it's obviously going to be much better. But I feel like this is what they were talking about when they said that they wanted to make older units more in line with new units. Because these crystals do so much damage. Obviously, the higher your merge rank is, and the faster you can attack, this like level 6 right here, you have the higher chance of throwing those crystals. But you also have to control them. You have to control the units. And that's why Cold Elemental is probably, is why it's so recommended. It's because it auto hits the first one. Whereas Trappers, you kind of have to have a lot of. Even here, I get double Tribunal, and it doesn't really affect me too much, because I'm getting the free upgrades off of the Dark Faction bonus. And because of my Mermaid is also protecting me really well here. But when you mix Knight Statue with the fact that they attack pretty fast in general, right here, this is where a Pyrotechnic would die because it can't kill the first thing. And even though I'm struggling to kill the first thing, it's still focusing most of its attack on the first unit. And because of that, you're able to kill that, then focus on the wave. And that is the main difference between something that can attack, that attacks the first thing, and something that attacks randomly. Like, look at this crystal damage. This crystal damage is crazy. The crystal damage is really the only thing that saves Cold Elemental from being kind of okay. It's still not the best. Right here is where I basically start the process of winning. Because he is really actively dropping off. Without the fact that he's trying to build 10 Inquisitors is crazy. To get the bonuses off of the Unity, it's the reason why people don't do it. He has so many things that can go wrong. Because if one gets warlocked, he just dies. Because then you have to try to summon in another one, and you don't have a lot of spaces. So you have to either merge down or summon in and merge up, and it just becomes like a really big problem. He's also just losing the damage race at this point, and that's just based on a crit percentage alone. I think right here he gets Grandmastered. I do too, but I get like the luckiest Grandmaster right there. He's at 9. He needs one more. He's at 7. But now he has 3 Knight Statues, so he's off of Knight Statues as well. So now he needs to summon in a Knight Statue. When you leave yourself with when you try to just do the 4 setup for Inquisitors, you leave yourself with 4 level 7s, and it's much easier to recover. It's also much easier to just deal damage because you have 4 level 7s. And then I win. Again, though, but like, this is not to say that Cold Elemental was like the best thing. Play Cold Elemental. I'm just saying, like, this was all just to showcase why Cold Elemental is much better than Pyrotechnic, but they're still not great. This is great because I have a max Knight Statue and a level 10 Mermaid, and 4,000 crit on a 2,000 opponent. I get all of these factors. But I just wanted to showcase why the differences between the two, and why Cold Elemental, simply by attacking the first target, is much better than a Pyrotechnic. Even though Pyrotechnic is much flashier, it looks like it's doing more damage. Even with like having 7 Pyrotechnics on a Knight Statue, it looks very flashy. But something that attacks the first thing will always be better. And then the fact that it also has the added bonus of shooting crystals and dealing bonus damage, that bonus damage is much better than the Pyrotechnic merge up rank bonus damage. Having a secondary source of bonus damage that is not your original damage as an additional is much better as well. But yeah, something to think about, and I will catch you guys next video.